Imagine finding out the exact moment your 10-year friendship is officially over because you have to read about your best friend's massive, star-studded wedding at Madison Square Garden while standing in a horse pasture 300 miles away. That is the exact reality that played out over the last 48 hours for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. While half of Hollywood was filtering into a completely transformed, garden-themed Madison Square Garden to watch Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce tie the knot, Blake and Ryan were photographed by TMZ at a local farm in Lake Placid, New York, watching their 6-year-old daughter Betty compete in a horse show. On paper, it looks like a wholesome, refreshing pivot to family life, the kind of grounded parenting moment that usually wins a celebrity couple endless praise. But the timing here is brutal. 4 years, Taylor Swift wasn't just a casual industry acquaintance to this family. She is literally the godmother to their children. She used their kids' names, James, Inez, and Betty, as major plot points in her Grammy-winning music. To go from being woven into the literal fabric of an artist's discography to being entirely shut out of the biggest pop culture wedding of the decade is a monumental shift. And according to the absolute latest insider reports that dropped literal moments after the ceremony wrapped, this wasn't a scheduling conflict. This was a deliberate, calculated, and permanent boundary. Line. The factual breakdown of how this weekend unfolded exposes just how deep the division runs. On Thursday, July 2nd, and Friday, July 3rd, Madison Square Garden became the epicenter of the entertainment world. The venue was locked down under heavy security for Swift and Kelce's private nuptials, with a guest list featuring everyone from Bradley Cooper and Gigi Hadid to Cara Delevingne and Blake's old circles like Lena Dunham. Adam Sandler reportedly officiated the ceremony, and the entire production was handled with the kind of airtight secrecy usually reserved for state dinners. Yet, 300 miles north, Blake Lively was spotted wearing denim shorts and a halter top, cheering as her daughter snagged a second-place finish in an equestrian event. The optics alone set social media on fire, but the real confirmation came straight from industry insiders who revealed that the friendship is not just on a temporary pause. It is fundamentally over. Insiders explicitly stated that Taylor is in a completely different place in her life right now, focusing entirely on surrounding herself with people she trusts and who bring her peace. The source noted that while Swift initially hoped they would move past the tension once things settled down, more complications kept piling up, making a reconciliation impossible. When it came time to finalize the wedding guest list, Swift reportedly realized she simply did not want that specific energy around something so personally sacred, marking a definitive turning point where she decided the friendship was done. To understand why this situation escalated into a full-scale social media debate, you have to look at the viral clips and the online fallout from the last few months. TikTok and X have been completely flooded with breakdowns dissecting the timeline of this collapse, and public reaction is deeply split. On one side, fan communities are aggressively defending Swift's right to protect her peace on her wedding day, pointing to the absolute messiness of the court filings that came to light earlier this year. On the other side, casual observers are fascinated by the sheer coldness of the public execution. It is the ultimate Hollywood deplatforming. For a long time, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds occupied an untouchable tier of celebrity culture where they could control their narrative flawlessly through witty Instagram banter and highly curated red carpet appearances. Watching that armor completely crack under the weight of an uninvited wedding status has caused an absolute frenzy online. People are combing through old footage of the 2024 Super Bowl, where Blake and Taylor were draped over each other in a luxury suite, comparing it to the stark isolation of the Lake Placid photos. The internet loves a fall from grace, and because Blake was already navigating a precarious public relations landscape following the chaotic press tour for her film It Ends With Us, this wedding snub is being treated as the final, definitive verdict on her social standing. The roots of his catastrophic fallout trace back to a massive courtroom drama that unfolded between Lively and her director and co-star, Justin Baldoni. What started as typical Hollywood creative differences quickly ballooned into a high-stakes legal war involving allegations of harassment and retaliatory smear campaigns. But the real turning point for this specific friendship occurred when Taylor Swift was reluctantly dragged into the crossfire. Court documents unsealed during the litigation revealed private text messages that completely changed the dynamic between the two women. In one notable exchange from late 2024, Blake reached out to Taylor asking if everything was okay and expressing a desire to be a better friend if she had unintentionally caused a shift. Taylor's response was devastatingly candid, with the singer noting that she felt a distinct shift in the way Blake had been speaking to her, describing the interactions as feeling like a mass corporate email sent to 200 employees rather than a personal conversation. Swift explicitly stated that she missed her funny, dark, normal-speaking friend who talked to her as herself, that it gets significantly worse. Additional court filings exposed texts where Blake discussed her creative battles with Baldoni and referred to Taylor and Ryan as her most trusted partners, casually writing that she happened to have a few dragons to protect those she fights for, promising that everyone would benefit from those gorgeous monsters. For someone like Swift, who has spent her entire career hypervigilant about how her name, brand, and influence are leveraged, discovering that she was being conceptualized behind the scenes as a strategic dragon to be deployed in a corporate film dispute was an absolute line in the sand. The frustration intensified dramatically when Baldoni's legal team slapped Swift with a subpoena to testify as a witness in the legal feud. Though the subpoena was ultimately withdrawn a few weeks later, the damage was already done. Swift had been pulled into a messy, public legal circus that had absolutely nothing to do with her, purely by association. When you step back and look at why the situation escalated so rapidly, it offers a fascinating case study in the fragile nature of modern influencer and celebrity culture. For years, the alliance between Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Taylor Swift was a mutually beneficial superpower matrix. They validated each other's brands. Blake provided the effortless, old-money Hollywood glamour, Ryan brought the meta, self-aware marketing genius, and Taylor anchored it all with the most powerful, intensely loyal fan base on the planet. It was a closed loop of elite validation. But this situation proves that even the most calculated celebrity alliances are incredibly fragile when real-world liability enters the equation. Influencer culture relies heavily on the illusion of effortless, unconditional loyalty, the idea of the untouchable squad. But in reality, high-level celebrity friendships operate a lot like corporate mergers. The moment one partner becomes a public relations liability or attempts to leverage the other's cultural capital for personal legal battles, the risk assessment changes instantly. Swift's brand is built on a very specific type of narrative control, and being used as a chess piece in a messy studio dispute shattered the illusion of a safe, private friendship. This entire situation has had a devastating impact on Blake and Ryan's public reputation, particularly because it strips away the narrative of total industry adoration they spent a decade building. For a long time, Ryan Reynolds could smooth over any controversy with a charming, fast-talking joke, and Blake could distract from criticism with a stunning red carpet look. But you cannot joke your way out of being publicly discarded by the most prominent figure in music. By entirely skipping the wedding and opting for a highly visible family outing hundreds of miles away, Blake and Ryan attempted to frame their absence as a deliberate choice to prioritize their children. It's a classic PR pivot. We aren't hiding from a snub, we're just being good parents. But the public isn't buying it. When a source close to the situation explicitly tells the media that the friendship is done and won't be fixed, it completely neutralizes whatever wholesome narrative the Lake Placid photos were meant to create. It leaves the couple in an incredibly vulnerable position, signaling to the rest of the industry that the protective umbrella of Swift's massive cultural influence has been officially retracted. Where things go from here remains completely up in the air, leaving a massive cloud of unresolved tension over everyone involved. Neither Swift nor Lively has released a formal statement, and honestly, they probably never will. The silence itself is the message. Blake is still dealing with the legal and financial aftermath of her multi-million-dollar battle with Baldoni, attempting to claw back staggering litigation fees while simultaneously trying to rebuild her public image. Ryan is continuously launching massive commercial projects, but the golden, untouchable aura surrounding their partnership has undeniably shifted. The ultimate irony is that Taylor Swift's music will forever contain the names of Blake's children, serving as a permanent, unchangeable archive of a friendship that no longer exists. Every time those songs are performed on a global stage, they will now carry the weight of an irreparable fallout. As the wedding festivities wind down in Manhattan and the celebrity guests head back to their respective corners of Hollywood, the industry is left watching to see how Blake and Ryan navigate this massive cultural shift and whether their reputations can survive being completely cast out of the kingdom.